Duterte thanked her campaign team for their support.
Leader is only good as the best of his or her team. So kung magaling ang team, magiging successful talaga ang isang leader. And you are that for me. Maraming salamat sa inyo.
And the United States says it is looking forward to working with the Philippines' next president.
We look forward to working with the president-elect, once that person is officially named, to strengthen the enduring alliance between the United States and the Philippines.
Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio is poised to become the next vice president, while 5 former senators have successfully secured their comebacks in the Senate. What will Filipinos expect from the country's new leaders and lawmakers? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. We will be joined by our guests and the other chiefs when we return. Welcome to the Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay and kasama po natin online from Quezon City, Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5. And dito po sa Mandaluyong, kasama natin si Ed Lingao of One News. Chiefs.
Happy midweek.
Happy
Hello,
midweek.
good evening.
Talo tayo. Talo tayo sa Ateneo. Yeah. Wala pang champion sa
Talo?
UAP.
Ano yung football?
Na?
Football?
Kainis ka talaga.
Basketball.
Tanungin mo lang ako sa ibang bagay. Wag na yan.
Friday. Magtutuos pa tayo sa Friday.
Oo, meron
sige.
pa yan.
Hindi pa talo. Sorry. Hindi pa pala talo. Pinahaba lang natin yung series.
Pinahaba.
Pero ano
Good
pang...
for
Lo,
Sige.
magiging meme yung sinabi mo yan, ha?
sige, tatanungin nila kita ng kaya mo sagutin. Anong headlines natin ngayon?
Eh, Sara Duterte accepts sa
Siyempre,
DepEd.
Oo.
DepEd, hindi pala DILG, hindi rin pala DND, DepEd.
Yun ang...
Big surprise.
Yun ang ibinigay. Hindi natin alam kung totoo rin yung mga haka-haka, mga chismis na ririnig
She
natin
agreed
about
daw
DND
eh.
and DILG.
Hindi tinanggap na. No, she was,
Hindi, I know.
she was asking
She
for,
agreed.
clearly she was
She
asking for,
agreed daw.
because she did ask for DND, and she did ask for DND, and the other option was DILG. So that much was clear before. Pero yun nga, finally,
It's
it
DepEd.
ends up with DepEd.
Ano ibig sabihin nun?
Well, somebody else is going to get D&D, although that was her first choice. So I'll leave that to you to figure out, and leave it to everybody else to figure out. Pero, that was the first choice.
Of course, in the meantime, LCV, the backdrop there is, of course, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., Bongbong Marcos, has officially, at least for his camp, officially claimed victory after spending the past 2 days really being magnanimous and saying, di pa, kalma lang tayo, and so on. But now he's unequivocally saying na, hindi, mukha namang malinaw. A lot of people, everybody is seeing it. A lot of people are acknowledging it as well.
Plus 98% turnout, di ba? And such a wide margin. So, di ba? Pwede mo, there's no reason not to call it anyway. So, yeah.
And it's no big surprise really coming after all those survey numbers
surveys,
we've been seeing. And we're not talking about house show surveys. We're talking about credible,
Yeah.
established surveys.
Yesterday, kausap ko nga ang Okta, and we've had time as well. Media has a lot of time to talk with Pulse. But that really is part of the big story that people should not also miss, di ba? That the polls eventually, once again, proved their value, proved their integrity, and it is still something. They became part of the story in the final weeks, but that's something that now retreats again into the background, and we take it for granted again. But anyway, now let's continue to talk about the developments, not just in the elections. Now we're looking at government as it starts to form. Joining us, Professor Jean Encinas Franco of the Department of Political Science from the University of the Philippines. Good evening and welcome back to Chiefs, Professor Franco.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Lucy. Good evening, Ed. Good
Robbie.
Robbie,
evening, Robbie. Hindi din ako yung
magandang
name. Oo.
Dean, let me start with this. Inuumpisa ng buuin ang gabinete
Oo.
ni Bongbong Marcos. Ngayon, syempre, ang plataforma niya, promise niya, unity. What should that cabinet look like to deliver and also to signal what unity exactly means?
Normally, di ba kasi usually presidents would want to appoint people associated with other camps to sort of look like they're really sincere in forging unity. The problem is that there are some things that the Marcos family and the Marcos camp have not acknowledged. And that's the problem. Some people might not be willing to be part of the current administration. Of course, there might be some people who will, be invited, but will eventually say yes. We don't know. But largely, I'm thinking that as of now, it's difficult to get people from other camps, especially I think the camp of Leni Robredo.
Pero ma'am, if that does happen, if Bongbong does offer positions to the opposition, that would put the burden on the shoulders of the opposition na parang I'm reaching out to you and you're turning down my offer
Yeah.
of unity.
Yeah,
So that puts the onus on the other side.
strategic din yon. Sa akin, siguro they should start by reviewing the case of Laila de Lima. That would be a step forward.
I was wondering about that as well. All these developments just a week or two before the elections, mukha bang I don't want to sound conspiratorial here, but mukha bang may pinupuntahan tong mga pangyayari? Two major retractions a week before the elections.
Oo nga pero I hope that I was hoping that it would benefit Laila de Lima's candidacy, but it was already too late, no? So I was wondering if because of these developments, the new administration can take on and start to review and, kung talagang wala namang basihan, malaking yon, magandang goodwill yon, no?
Yeah, that's a good first step toward healing. Although right now, as we speak, there seems to be still a lot of people particularly from the camp of Leni Robredo, who are pushing for, a major check on the election returns and how they match up with the electronically transmitted data. No? So parang the implication is there must have been massive cheating. Meron pa rin nun. They're not blatantly out there claiming it, but ang dami nun in strong whispers. And the fact that nagrally pa sa Comelec, nagrally sa Liwasan, no? And may walkout pa, may academic walkout pa. What can you say about this continuing? Is it just a stage of grief, as some of the supporters would say? And they're in the stage of anger, and that eventually it will plateau towards acceptance, or
Siguro
normal ba yan?
Yeah, probably psychologists would be able to explain that. Sa akin naman, ang tingin ko, it's really the trauma from past election irregularities that seem to be on the minds of the people, plus the fact that yung people who comprise the Comelec are really very close to the present administration. That's one. Another thing is that yung simula ng botohan, yung VCM machines, di ba, nag-count out at ang dami. And dahil we're living in a 24/7 news cycle, di ba? Tapos may social media. Isa-isang nababalita sa Twitter. So parang ang perception is that it's super big to affect the outcome of the election. Tapos inexplain din ng Comelec na hindi. So ang nangyayari kasi tingin ko, I know that it's mahirap din for Comelec talaga to administer a nationwide and synchronous election. Tapos, di ba, isang Comelec commission, isa kang Comelec na kailangan mag-take on ng synchronized, more than 18,000 positions are at stake. Ang problema kasi, pagka may mga mistakes na ganun, tapos coupled with our trauma in the past, nagmumukhang kahit na sabihin mong mistakes on their part, nagmumukhang meron siyang kinalaman dun sa pandaraya. So, kailangan din talaga super competent and OC ang mga tao sa Comelec para talagang they cannot afford to make mistakes.
Okay.
Diba?
In the meantime,
But will it help if, for example, VP Leni actually formally concedes?
Yeah, it will really help, and also ask her supporters to, kasi maganda yung concede. It will pag concession niya kasi ibig sabihin noon mag-aano na siya. Parang sasabihin niya sa supporters niya na maging mahinahon kayo. Yes, there's going to be a lot of work to be done in the in the next few years, but for now, this is my decision, and the people have spoken.
and speaking of the next few years, what are the scenarios, what are the options for Leni Robredo, and for that matter, the pink movement that has developed all around her? And idadagdag ko na rin doon, relative to those options, as you said, for organizing, how crucial is it for that concession, if that is the decision? how crucial is it for that concession to come as soon as possible rather than later?
It is very important for that to come as soon as possible because it might look like, she is, what do you call this? I don't want to call it as such. Pero yung parang, anong pang hinihintay niya? When in fact, the international community, just kanina sa news nyo, the US Congress, US Embassy has already, spoken. Although hindi pa nila pinapangalanan din, no? Very careful din sila. Pero yun, baka hindi maging maganda for her kung matagalan ng matagal yung kanyang concession speech. But of course, lahat naman yun is her decision.
Yeah, but whatever happens and whenever that comes, and we're presuming it will come to that point na malinaw naman na panalo si Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and tatanggapin ng lahat. What are the options for Leni Robredo and the pink movement, as we said?
Si VP Leni can still run after 3 years, but of course, again, it's her decision. But she will continue to be, the symbol of the opposition. Tapos people, especially the young people who are in the pink movement, they can also run for, for public office in 2025. Kasi we need younger people. At napatunayan naman nila, volunteerism can work, no? At the very least, in parang energizing a campaign. So why not, no? Yun yung pwedeng mangyari. And VP Leni can also put up a foundation, no? Yung Angat Buhay, pwede rin niyang gawing foundation. Alam mo, mas marami pa nga siyang matutulungan kaysa sa pag nasa gobyerno ka. Very limited din kasi syempre yung government kasi you have to be subjected by all those rules, no? So yun yung ano daw.
But let me back up
Since
a
you
bit.
mentioned opposition, how do you think the opposition will look under a Marcos administration? I mean, will it be led, you think, pa rin by the supporters of Leni, if not VP Leni herself? And how should they go about, presenting themselves as opposition forces when majority of them actually lost the elections? They're not in positions of power, influence, and they will mostly be at best, sabihin na lang natin, street parliamentarians, no? Parang ganon. So how will the opposition look with this administration that's a majority, that's led by a majority president?
Well, the beauty in being a street parliamentarians is that you're not bound by any, what do you call this? Horse trading game, di ba? Whereas if you are an elected legislator, for example, of course, you also need to protect some things, no? You have a pet bill, you need the senator, no? So yun yung problem. Yun yung ano doon, no, caveat. But then if you are if the opposition will continue to be a force to reckon with, I think Leni Robredo should still be very much a part of it. No?
Ma'am, let me... okay, go ahead. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Yeah, that's my opinion. And I don't think the pink movement will just suddenly die. I've seen the passion of these young people, and I think they will be there for the long haul.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, let me back up a bit. Let me ask you yourself as a teacher. Bongbong Marcos won by such a huge margin. A huge margin. How will you teach or explain what happened to your students? How will you talk about 1986? How will you talk about the last 36 years? And how will you talk about 2022?
Yeah, it's difficult, no? It's these are challenging times to be an educator. Um, yeah, it's I don't know what to say, but there are many factors, no, that could explain why Marcos had such a big margin. Well, we know that they've prepared for this, sabi nga, Friendster pa lang, di ba? But then they've intensified their campaign in 2016 when Marcos lost to Robredo, no? And palagay ko, no amount of resources can match their resources. And yung obsession nila to gain back the presidency and to return to Malacanang. Secondly, yung yung factor that Sara Duterte was is his vice presidential candidate, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Ang laking
Yes, ma'am.
factor noon. As you can see in the result, 'di ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Mindanao and then the north.
Pero ma'am, kasi in the end po, people will not be looking at the Sara Duterte factor. They will be looking simply at Bongbong Marcos winning the presidency by a huge margin in 2022, 36 years after EDSA. So, di ba, I suppose for most people, Sara Duterte's role will be a side note or a footnote.
Okay. The other, well, the next explanation would be yung authoritarian nostalgia, di ba? That they have fomented over social media. Well, people may ask, sinabi na rin ito sa akin ng Spanish journalist, di ba, pwede namang, I mean, in Spain, kahit may authoritarian nostalgia pa, pagka mag-anak ka ni Generalissimo Franco, hindi ka mananalo. Diba? May ganon. Ang tingin ko rin is because yung nostalgia promoted by the Marcos camp has resonated well with Filipinos, mainly because of the uncertainties caused by the times, diba? Pero iba yun, no? Sa akin, iba yung explanation per income class. Yung lower income class would be uncertainties brought by the lack of jobs and livelihood, the increase in poverty rates due to the pandemic. Pero sa high income class would the same reason why people voted for Duterte in 2016 naman, because they wanted security over freedom. Wala silang, hindi nila yung human rights. It's not something that appeals to them.
Okay, Professor Jean Encinas Franco of the University of the Philippines. Ma'am, maraming salamat po.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Salamat.
And now we're holding on. We move on to our... Okay, we'll take a break and then we will be right back. Please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back.
Welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News. And now joining us is former Senator and now an incoming Senator, Jinggoy Estrada. Magandang gabi, Senator Estrada, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, good evening to
Magandang gabi,
everyone.
sir.
Good evening to all televiewers.
Yes, sir.
Magandang gabi po.
Sir, mukhang pasok na kayo. Napag-uusapan na ba kung sino magiging Senate President at kung kani-kanina yung mga komite?
Wala po akong pinag-uusapan na gano'n at naghihintay lang ako ng mga patawag kung sakaling merong gustong interesado sa pwestong Senate Presidency. So kami, wala pa kaming pinag-uusapan. Wala pa ako nakakausap.
Pero from your end, sir, sino bang napipisil ninyo o sino tingin nyo malamang na magiging SP?
I do not have any idea as of now as we speak. I really do not have any idea.
Hey,
But
Pero,
there
sir,
are
sa tagal
rumors
niyo
circulating. I read in the
Yeah.
news that they already chose a Senate President in this coming Congress.
Sino, sir? I'm sorry?
sino pa?
Narinig ko lang sa mga balita na meron yung mga ibang senador na nag-press release na meron yata silang napili na bagong Senate President.
Pero sir, how can they choose a Senate President without you casting your vote?
Baka majority na. Hindi natin alam.
Sino raw yan, sir?
Sino daw yun, sir?
24 senators, you only need 13 votes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sino raw yun?
Yung mga lumalabas po ng mga balita si Senator Cynthia yata.
Cynthia Villar. Okay. Hey, Senator, alam niyo naman, Bongbong Marcos has officially claimed victory and mukhang malinaw naman po yung resulta. And ayun nga po, he ran on a platform of unity. Pero alam naman natin, bawat eleksyon, nagkakaroon talaga ng hidwaan, nagkakaroon talaga ng bangayan. Ano po ang papel ng Senado sa pagsulong ng unity and how hard, how difficult, and what are the challenges there in fostering unity?
Well, ang mga senador naman, tigagawa lang naman ng batas yan. Kami naman, basta pagka may kailangan ng Malacanang, if it will redound to the benefit of our people, we stand united to pass the legislative agenda of the palace.
Marami po nagsasabi na... yes, go ahead, please.
Basta nagkakaisa kami, majority kami, basta maganda yung panukalang batas. At katulad nga sinabi kung kanina, kung pakikinabangan ng taong bayan, ng mga sa Pilipino, lahat kami ay united. At kami boboto lahat kami.
Well, marami pong nag-aalala na dahil nga po majority nga po ang miyembro ng Senado na sumusuporta sa Chief Executive, ay baka raw mawala na yung pangunahing layunin din, traditionally, yung role ng Senado na fiscalizer. Ano pa masasabi niyo
Hindi mo naman maiwasan yan. No? Meron, imposible nga walang fiscalizer sa amin sa Senate. Magkakaroon ng minority sa Senado. At yung minority members niyan, yun ang magsisilbing fiscalizer sa Senado.
Sa tingin niyo po ba magkakaroon ng mga realignments? Dahil in the past daw, kuminsan pagka-eleksyon, kampanya, magkakampihan, pero pag nanalo na, biglang iba na mga alignments nga. So, do you see that happening in this Senate?
In all honesty, that is possible. That is possible. Yun lang ang masasagot ko. Posible mangyari.
Hindi nyo nakikita ngayon kung anong maaaring maging alignments dyan.
Siguro I will just choose not to comment on the issue kasi wala pa naman nangyayari. Wala pa naman kumakausap sa akin.
Sige. Wag po tayo, lihis tayo ng konti doon sa politics, dahil nga, tapos na yung eleksyon, ngayon, mauupo na ang mga senador. Ano po sa tingin nyo ang dapat unahin ng Senado?
Unang-unang dapat unahin ng Senado ay pagbibigyan ng trabaho para sa ating mga kababayan. Tapos how to para labanan yung pandemya, itong COVID-19. At paano magbigay rin ng ayuda sa ating mga kababayan, lalo na yung mga nawalan ng trabaho because of this pandemic. At yung yung crisis natin sa langis, patas ng patas yung halaga ng fairness.
At mahalaga naman po talaga yun, and I think everybody agrees with you. Isa to sa pinakamalaking suliranin. Pero speaking of the pandemic, sa tingin niyo po ba ang Senado kailangan ipagpatuloy ang mga investigasyon doon sa mga nakaraang mga problema, mga iskandalo na nangyari, lalo-lalo na yung Pharmally? Do you think kailangan pong ipagpatuloy ang mga probe dyan?
Well, siguro kailangan muna natin pag-aralan bago tayo mag-imbestiga. No? If the investigation will lead to in aid of legislation, pwede siguro. Pero pag hindi naman, pag grandstanding lang ang ibang mga kasama natin, huwag na lang sana. Sayang naman ang pera, it's just a waste of time.
Pero sir, the Senate's role is not just for legislation, it's also for oversight. That's why you have the Blue Ribbon Committee. Hindi ho ba? So in the end, I suppose because of the Blue Ribbon Committee itself, you may also want to investigate as part of your oversight functions.
Yes, definitely. Hindi lang naman kami sa legislation, pwede rin naman kami mag-investiga in aid of legislation. At yun naman ang ginagawa ng Senate ever since. When I was still there in the Senate, yun naman ang ginagawa natin. We investigate and we come out we craft laws in aid of legislation. Kung ano yung napag-usapan dun sa investigasyon, yun ang gagawin natin patas.
As far as you know, having campaigned with the presumptive president, no? Ano po ang nakikita ninyong magiging, sabihin na natin, first order of business sa Senado ng mga allies na ron?
Palagay ko,
as far as policy issues, legislative measures.
well, palagay ko
support
because
those
of what we experienced in this pandemic several years ago, 2 years ago, kailangan siguro mag-concentrate ang ating magiging presidente sa economic recovery. Dahil siyempre, maraming, katulad nga na sinabi kanina, maraming nagugutom, maraming nawawalan ng trabaho, at maraming kakasakit. Kaya siguro, pagtutunan siguro ng pansin yung ating bagong administrasyon led by President Bongbong Marcos, ay economic recovery.
Mm-hmm. Sir, I think we all agree. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think we all agree na dapat priority nga yung economic recovery, COVID-19 pandemic response, and I suppose assistance for people. Pero sir, from your end, anyway, you started talking about legislation. What do you have in mind? What are your proposals with regard to those issues?
Well, first of all, to generate jobs for our people. And yung ating minimum wage, kailangan siguro taasan, not only in Metro Manila, but the whole Philippines. Kasi during my campaign sorties nationwide, nalaman ko na napakababa ng minimum wage na tinatanggap ng isang ordinaryong manggagawang Pilipino.
Yes, sir.
Like here in
It
Metro
is
Manila,
537.
it's only 537 pesos. And because of the increase in the basic commodities, kailangan siguro natin na taasan yung minimum wage, not only in Metro Manila, but also in all provinces of the whole Philippines. And thirdly, yung gusto ko magkaroon ng, kasi because of what we experienced during the last 2 years of pandemic, marami tayong kakulangan. Kulang tayo sa mga doktor, kulang tayo sa mga nurse, kulang tayo sa mga medical practitioners. So gusto ko sana magkaroon ng scholarship ang gobyerno para sa mga gusto mag-nurse, gusto mag-doktor, pero merong isang kondisyon. Kung nakatapos na sila, kung nakapasa na sila, pagka-doktor o pagka-nurse, kailangan nila magtrabaho ng 5 taon dito sa ating bansa para makapagsilbi dito sa ating mga kababayan before they seek greener pastures abroad. Kasi ang nangyayari sa atin dito, pagka once na nakapasa ng nursing, doktor, maalis na pupunta sa abroad. Siyempre, mas magaganda opportunities sa Amerika, sa Europa, o dito sa kalapit bayan natin, kalapit bansa natin like Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan. Siyempre, mas malaking kita doon. Pupunta sila doon, magkakaroon tayo ng brain drain. Kaya yun ang nasa isip ko.
Yes, sir. Sir, well, actually, sir, maganda yung nabanggit ninyo na nalaman niyo nung kampanya na mababa yung minimum wage, nasa 537 pesos per day.
Dito sa Metro Manila.
Yes, sir. Metro Manila, yes, sir. Pero
Doon
at the
sa
same
ibang
time...
probinsya na,
Yes,
sa
sir.
ibang probinsya, mga 300, 350.
Yes, sir. Pero sir, at the same time po kasi meron sa ating mga batas ngayon, ng kasalukuyang batas, the minimum wage is set at a regional level by the regional tripartite boards. So,
Yes.
are you saying that you intend to change or to propose a law to set the minimum wage at a national level?
Alam mo,
Or paano po?
alam mo, boss, kasi masyado mabagal ang pagdesisyon nitong mga regional wage boards natin. If they act very slow, I will be forced to legislate it. We will be forced to legislate it. Dahil marami ng tao nagugutom. Hindi naman sila uma-action. Magkaroon tayo ng legislated wage increase.
And that will be,
Why do you think
that
the
will be across the
inaction is
board. I
not-
mean,
Okay,
you will
yes.
legislated wage increases, but does that necessarily mean across the board one rate, or
Well, we
basically
have
you
to
legislate for
study
each
it
region?
carefully. We have to study it carefully. We have to strike a balance between the labor and itong mga kapitalista.
Employers.
Hindi naman pwede across the board na o bibigyan mo lang 500 pesos across the board. Magko-collapse naman yung ating ekonomiya. Marami naman magagalit sa atin. That's why we have to strike a balance na hindi maargabyado yung labor sector at hindi maargabyado yung yung mga kapitalista.
What about other issues, sir? Halimbawa, I mean, yung relationship with China, which is something that's always been debated upon, even in the Senate, no? Ano nakikita niyo magiging polisiya dyan ng ating presumptive President Marcos?
Kailangan gamitin natin, we have to exhaust all legal remedies. Kailangan talk to them diplomatically. No? Kailangan may konting diplomasya. Hindi naman natin kayang girahin kaagad yung malalaking bansa katulad ng China, ng US. No? We have to exhaust all diplomatic channels.
Which we have done, no?
Tama naman sinabi ni Pangulong Duterte na we cannot go to war against China. Kung sa ating mga military equipments yung mga iba outdated na, napakabulok as against the military equipments of China and even USA. Talagang mahirapan naman tayo. So we have to exhaust all the diplomatic channels. Kailangan daan natin sa diplomasya.
Okay.
And in regard to the Hague ruling, for example, arbitral ruling, is that something that you think we should push harder? And how else, aside from what has been done? No?
Well, it is up to the president. But if you ask me, kailangan i-pursue natin yan. Atin na yun eh. The tribunal has already decided, has already acted, so that it belongs to the Philippines. So dapat ang kinina natin yun. It will still be up to the president.
What about our pullout from the ICC, from the International Criminal Court?
Statute.
Do you think that we should reopen discussions about returning to the ICC? And for that matter, ano po ang naiisip nyo on the larger question of the power of a president to just exit a treaty unilaterally? I mean, do you think it
for me,
needs Senate concurrence to not only to enter a treaty, but to also exit a treaty?
Well, for me, we have to defer to the wisdom of the president, of the incoming president. That's all I can say about it.
I'm sorry,
Kasi
medyo...
siya yung chief architect ng foreign policy natin.
Apa.
Hindi naman ng mga senador. It is only the president who has the sole authority to sa foreign policy because he is the chief architect of our
Okay.
foreign policy.
Yes, but on the larger picture lang po of the of treaties in general, it takes Senate concurrence to enter a treaty, but in this particular case, it took just the unilateral action of President Duterte as chief architect, as you said, of foreign policy, to just exit. Do you think
Abrogated.
that there is need for legislation or policy that will do you think that exiting a treaty needs Senate concurrence as well?
Well, I cannot speak in behalf of the Senate, no. Siguro we will still have to discuss it when the time comes. Kasi ngayon, parang bagong salta na naman ako dyan, bagong senador na ako dyan. So, kailangan siguro mag-usap-usap kami mga senador. I cannot speak in behalf of the Senate because iisa lang ako na senador.
Okay. Senator Jinggoy Estrada, maraming salamat po.
Okay,
Thank you,
maraming
sir.
salamat po. Thank
Salamat
you.
po. Well, there you go. Happy midweek.
Happy week. Tapos na ba? Parang ang bilis ng oras natin. Nagulat ako dun Akala ko may natay pa tayong...
Hindi, wala naman. I suppose it's also instructive to talk about the last 2 days and moving forward what happens next. A lot of discussion over whether some people are willing to accept the results of the elections.
Oo. Pero in the meantime, dito sa topics na pinag-usapan natin, yung Senate leadership, di ba? Parang meron na tayong mga naririnig-rinig, di ba? Notwithstanding yung sinabi ni Senator Jinggoy.
Si Villar.
Si Villar, sabi niya, yan ang naririnig niya. Mukhang sabi niya, she has the
What
votes.
surprises me is that parang hindi kinuha yung boto niya.
Ay, ewan ko.
Parang ano?
Parang hindi kinuha yung boto niya.
Hindi nga raw siya.
he was
Sinabi nga niya, hindi raw siya natanong eh.
He was talking in the third person eh.
No, he was saying na mukhang may majority na. So, kumbaga, kung nakaabot na nga naman sa majority, what's the point in asking the rest? Because you just need 13. I think that was the point he was making.
No, but I mean, just to be clear, I mean, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the votes. Kasi medyo, he's in the clear, di ba? Mukhang malinaw naman. Notwithstanding that he's number 12.
Number 12, yes.
He has enough
May
votes.
angat siya doon sa
Di ba? If you
number
take it
13.
even from the 98%, wala nang habol sa kanya, di ba? Parang pasok na siya.
Well, that'll be interesting. You have, if it does come to pass na si Villar, Senate President, she will have a son who is also in the same chamber.
At meron ka mga magkapatid, mag-ina. Sa panoorin di ba? Tapos may kapatid na senador ang presidente. So, ang daming mga kakapamilya circles na to. Okay.
So maybe for next topic we should have
Maybe
talk
magkakapatid.
about dynasties.
No, yeah, it would be very interesting to talk about dynasties. I mean, I'll just throw it in the conversation. Muntik nang pumasok pa si Mayor Binay.
Mayor Binay.
Kung nagkataon.
Mayor Binay, yes.
I think it's
madadagdagan
number
pa.
15 or number 14.
I think it's 14, if I'm not mistaken. 13?
13.
Number
ba?
13.
So,
Ibig sabihin
muntik
siya
na.
yung nasa bingit ang
Siya yung humahabol. Yes, yeah.
Ganun na lang.
Pero kung
13,
nagkataon, di ba?
yeah.
But I agree, it would be an interesting topic that's
Yeah.
always in our minds, not
That
just in
and
the back,
political
at the
party
top
reform.
of our minds. So we'll try to do that for everyone. In the meantime, well, unfortunately, that's all we have for this edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
Ako po si Lucy Cruz Valdez ng News 5.
I'm Ed Lingao and we are One News.